Looks like Marvel might finally be getting back on track after all the missteps in Phase 4. Hi, how's it going? A lot of exciting stuff just dropped about Marvel Studios, but let's start with Spider-Man, because we've had some quick and very interesting updates about the new movie. Recently, in that Q&A from the Cosmic Circus that I covered here on the channel, the journalist there mentioned a very interesting detail about Spider-Man: A New Day. He's now one more name on the growing list of insiders claiming that Hulk is going to be full Savage Hulk in that movie. Up to now, the only thing 100% confirmed was Mark Ruffalo's presence. But there are several reliable people saying we won't just have Hulk, we'll have Savage Hulk actually unleashed in this story. Another interesting thing that came out were some set photos showing Tom Holland together with Zendaya. That suggests Zendaya has been filming more than people expected, which is another sign that her role in the movie might be bigger than everyone initially thought. A lot of folks assumed she'd just pop in for a small cameo and that's it, but maybe not anymore. And between us, this new Spider-Man suit looks incredible. We'd already seen it in leaks, but seeing it more clearly in behind-the-scenes material without VFX, the suit looks amazing. Honestly, it might be the best Spider-Man suit they've ever put on film. Now, maybe the biggest bombshell about the new Spider-Man came from Deadline, which is ultra reliable. They published a piece about Sadie Sink, talking about how she's going to shine in the final season of Stranger Things, and mentioning her other projects. And then, casually, in the middle of the article, they dropped this: Spider-Man: A New Day is scheduled to premiere on July 31st, 2026. They also comment on all the speculation about what Sadie Sink's role is going to be in the Spider-Man movie, and even they say they don't know for sure. We've already talked a lot here on the channel about who she might play and how central her character could be to the story. Then the article says they know she'll be joining the cast of the next Avengers movie, which is set to film in London at the end of 2026. Hold up! First of all, we already know from the directors themselves that Avengers: Doomsday has wrapped principal photography, but will go through reshoots. Some of those have already happened, and others are scheduled for 2026. Right after that, in 2026, they're set to begin filming Secret Wars. So the Avengers movie that's going to shoot at the end of 2026 is clearly Secret Wars. Which raises the question, what kind of character is Sadie Sink playing in the Spider-Man movie that would carry over into Secret Wars? That's very exciting. It might be confirming a lot of our theories and theories across the internet that her character could actually be a major villain, important, powerful, and tied directly to the multiverse. But it could also be something simpler, like a grounded urban character who's part of Spider-Man's street-level world and then shows up in Secret Wars simply because she's close to Peter and gets pulled into the chaos. Either way, the possibilities are very intriguing. Before we change topics, if you liked this little Spider-Man update, hit the like button and subscribe to the channel so you can keep up with all these superhero news with me. Now let's get to the really big picture. In that same Cosmic Circus insider conversation, the journalist also talked about the role of the Russo brothers after Secret Wars. As we already know, the Russos are involved with directing both Doomsday and Secret Wars. But apparently their big return to Marvel isn't just about those movies. The report says Marvel wants to keep them around after Secret Wars as part of sort of a Marvel Parliament, basically a creative decision-making group. They wouldn't be directing everything, but they would help oversee the overall story of the next saga. The goal is to avoid the mistakes of the multiverse saga: too many branches, too many loose threads, and no clear direction. That really was the core problem of Phase 4. Marvel launched a flood of shows, and it became hard to see where any of them were headed. The same goes for some of the movies. The word behind the scenes was that there was so much being produced that Kevin Feige, the guy who usually keeps the whole story straight, simply didn't have time to oversee everything. Result? Projects started coming out disconnected from one another, and in many cases, with questionable quality.
With the Russos staying on to help connect everything, we have something close to a built-in guarantee that the next era will be more coherent. the new phase, the next set of movies and shows, could end up being as connected as phases 1, 2, and 3. The original idea for the multiverse saga, according to this report, was basically let Marvel play in the multiverse sandbox so they could tell wild stories they'd never be able to do in just the main universe. They wanted to experiment, explore new corners of the MCU, and still tie it all back to the multiverse somehow, building toward incursions in the main universe and the multiverse collapsing. Along the way, they'd sprinkle in special appearances from legacy heroes here and there. So the plan was, everything would relate to the multiverse to eventually culminate in Secret Wars and show the full multiversal crisis. But the pandemic wrecked that plan. Internal discussions and external pressure pushed Marvel to release content months, sometimes years before those projects were truly ready. That domino effect created a mess in the overarching story. Less than half of the projects released over the last 5 years actually matter for the multiverse saga's main storyline. They were rushed out, not abandoned, but rushed. That's why so many of those movies and shows feel disconnected from the big picture. I've said this before, films like Eternals and shows like Moon Knight, which I personally like, probably shouldn't have been dropped where they were. They needed to wait a little longer or be better integrated. In Marvel's mind, bringing in the Russos, directors who have proven they can juggle tons of characters and unify storylines, is their way of fixing that. The Russos can weigh in on what works, what should be introduced now, what should be saved for later, and so on. This is also great news for the next Avengers film for one specific reason. I love Avengers Endgame, it's impossible not to, but I do have one criticism. It doesn't set up the future very well. It really was designed as a definitive ending. That's one of the reasons so many people lost interest afterwards. Knowing these behind-the-scenes details, it's obvious. Marvel didn't leave many plot threads hanging after Endgame because they didn't have a clear vision yet of what would come next. With Secret Wars, it's different. The Russos themselves have said Secret Wars is the beginning of a new era for Marvel, not the end of one. They're directing these movies already knowing where things are supposed to go after. And we already know some of what's coming next. One of the first movies in the next phase is the new X-Men film with a completely new cast. I actually think part of that team will be introduced already in Secret Wars. According to this journalist, Marvel has a date locked in. The new X-Men movie is marked for May 5th, 2028. Secret Wars is coming out at the end of 2027, and then X-Men drops in May of the following year. He also mentions that Marvel has 3 dates reserved in 2028, February 18th, May 5th, and November 10th. We already know May 5th is X-Men. That leaves February and November. There are 2 movies Marvel has essentially lined up, but hasn't officially announced yet, and we can make some very educated guesses. First, Black Panther 3. The working title and a production listing suggest it's called Black Panther: Shadows of Wakanda, with filming scheduled to start on June 15, 2026 in London. If filming starts in mid-2026, the film could easily be ready for a 2027 release. Maybe even before Secret Wars if Marvel wanted, but if they prefer not to release it before Secret Wars, it fits perfectly into one of those 2028 dates. At a Deadline Contenders event in Los Angeles, Ryan Coogler, director of Black Panther and Black Panther: Wakanda Forever, confirmed that Black Panther 3 is his next film. He said, "We're working on it." There's a super vague early synopsis floating around about Wakanda's vulnerability after T'Challa's death and Shuri fully stepping into her role as warrior leader. Honestly, it sounds more like a rehash of Wakanda Forever than a real synopsis. Coogler hasn't even finished the script yet, so I would treat that as purely placeholder text. More interesting are the rumors that Coogler is writing a very specific role for Denzel Washington, likely as a villain. There are also strong rumors that a new actor has been chosen to play the new T'Challa, and that some concept art already showed a redesigned T'Challa whose face looks a lot like that actor. I've already made a video about this casting rumor and how all the pieces seem to connect. Now, if Black Panther 3 is filming in mid-2026, that lines up with the Secret Wars schedule. A lot of people are speculating, and I agree it makes sense, that Marvel could introduce the new T'Challa in Secret Wars so that when Black Panther 3 comes out, the audience is already familiar with him. It would mirror what happened before. Civil War introduced T'Challa, and then the Black Panther solo film picked up from there and dealt with the fallout of Civil War, including his father's death. If something similar happens with the new T'Challa and Secret Wars, it would be totally logical. Now, what other Marvel movie is stuck in limbo, with everyone wondering if it's happening or not, and that finally got an update? Blade. I've done several videos tracking the ups and downs of this film. Right now, it's basically shelved at Marvel. But this same insider says the delay is strategic. Marvel wants to push Blade into the next saga. That doesn't mean it will never happen. It means Marvel is holding the project back on purpose until after Secret Wars. The part that worries me slightly is many rumors claimed Blade was being developed with the Midnight Suns already in mind. The Midnight Suns are basically the supernatural Avengers: Blade, Moon Knight, Werewolf by Night, characters like that. If Marvel is serious about this new, more connected strategy, bringing in the Russos to help with long-term planning, then it makes sense to hold Blade until they can release it with a clear purpose, to lead directly into a Midnight Suns project. That would be very different from how they handled Moon Knight. Great show, I really like it, but it feels totally standalone. It doesn't connect to anything. Same with Werewolf by Night. Cool special, fun Halloween vibe, and then nothing. It goes nowhere. If they use Blade as the anchor that brings these characters together and actually sets up the Midnight Suns, then it makes total sense to wait. The only thing that complicates this is Oscar Isaac's recent comments that he's not very interested in working with Disney again unless something changes. And he's Moon Knight, so we'll have to wait and see if a good offer eventually brings him back. So, if we plug the pieces in, we've got Black Panther 3, Blade, and X-Men pretty much filling those 2028 dates. And one more thought. If Marvel really wants everything to lead somewhere, it would make a lot of sense to use Doctor Strange 3 to connect him even more to the supernatural side, Blade, Moon Knight, Werewolf by Night, and fold him into the Midnight Suns. In the comics, he has already been a part of that team, so it fits perfectly. So, which of these projects are you most excited for? And I'm going to do something different here. I'm leaving a secret phrase for you to comment if you made it all the way to the end of the video. The secret phrase is Midnight Suns. Write Midnight Suns in the comments to prove you watched until the end. On the side here, you'll find other videos you can watch next. Thanks a lot for your phenomenal company, and I'll see you in the next one.